A long-standing problem within Unitarian Universalism has been the not issue. I don't mean not with a K. I mean what's a Unitarian? Well, we're not ... We've all done it. Go ahead. Admit it. I will. We've all begun our answer to what's a Unitarian anyway by defining first what we aren't. We have no shortage of not answers, starting with, well, we're not Christian, and running all the way to, well, we're not really a church. Oh yeah, I have heard that one too. Even I do the negative thing sometimes, for I will often start to describe us as a non-creedal church right before I say, we base our faith on a set of principles and sources, not on a fixed set of beliefs. Now, the not problem is okay for starters, for that first interaction. In our culture, the word church usually connotes a Christian organization. People expect the Christian God, Jesus, the Bible, the creed in some form, either with a heavy or a light emphasis. Our approach is different. Those traditional rubrics are not bad things by definition. It's just that many of us have issues with how those beliefs are proclaimed and how those concepts get used. We find the certainty and the accompanying dogmatic teachings a bit hard to swallow, especially when they are used to define what books we should read or what our politics should be. And so we are unable to find in that kind of creedal religion an outlet for our spirituality. We seek something else. We need something else. Now, our search does come from the same deep religious impulse as everyone else, however. Most people who participate in a religious community seek one or all of three things: a sense of purpose and meaning, a connection with something beyond their isolated selves, and a place where they can feel safe expressing their values. And a first purpose of religion is to help people understand the vastness of existence and to help them define their place within that vastness. It's easy to feel alone or lost. Religion helps us connect reassuringly to something greater than ourselves. Now, a second purpose is to help people define and refine an ethical set of values and guidelines to assist them in living well and with integrity. The idea of God, and I mean no disrespect to anyone's beliefs, but the notion of God or gods is just one way of serving those purposes, but it's not the only way. Now, God certainly is an answer to the questions of creation and meaning, and the various rules and precepts associated with a God are meant to define what's required to live well. Okay, fine. The problem is that the moral answers of a few thousand years ago do not always adapt across time and culture. Most religious precepts were developed in an authoritarian, male-dominated, hierarchical time when only a very few men had significant rights. But we live, for the moment, in a democratic or even socialist world where individual rights are at least balanced against the needs of state and church. At least that's the theory in these times when the forces of authoritarianism are in resurgence in many parts of the world. In recent decades, a dominant force in law and culture has been the extension of full and equal rights to all people in a radically inclusive way. And those ancient authoritarian, male-focused, rule-based religious doctrines may no longer serve, but they aren't disappearing without a fight. So, religion has two purposes: to give us the tools to explain existence, at least to ourselves, and to help us live ethically and morally. Now, those purposes remain fine and useful, but the rules associated with old creeds are of decreasing use to those of us who want to think for ourselves. The ground of religion has shifted, if not its purposes, and the proof is easy to see. Traditional religion is, despite the angry insistence of evangelicals, in decline. The Roman Catholic Church is more often in the news for its failures than its successes. And Canadian culture has changed, but too many religions have not. The idea of an all-powerful and all-knowing God is just one possibly outdated way of serving the purposes of religion. The notions of salvation or eternal judgment are meant to reinforce divine authority, and to encourage us to follow those outdated rules made long ago by men in power who insisted that they, and they alone, were just interpreting God's will. Those rules may not fit the world in which we live, a world where we are perfectly comfortable with challenging the authority of powerful men. I believe many, if not most, Unitarian Universalists find that old approach unsatisfying. We want something different. We want something contemporary. We want a religion that speaks to the lives we live today and the issues and challenges we face today. And our today is constantly changing. We want a religious approach that recognizes that fact. We want to consider questions of meaning and connection with a measure of control resting in our hands. We don't want to be told. We just don't trust answers that we are ordered to accept. We want to include scientific knowledge in our defining of the universe, and then to have a say in naming the spirituality of existence and connection. We need answers that are personally meaningful for us and that make sense to us. And when it comes to morality, we should be good people because it's the right thing to do, not because we've either been promised something wonderful or threatened with something terrible. Now, some people who come to Unitarianism, and most of us come in rather than are born into this faith, most of us who come in are looking for something that just doesn't fit within the confines of creedal religion. And others who have no religious background are seeking an opportunity to explore religion in an age when religion just isn't all that cool anymore. And what connects these two groups is this idea of seeking and learning. And that's part of your church's mission statement. To quote, "We are a learning community open to evidence and varied insights that encourages reflection and exploration. We use what we learn to strengthen our relationships and our capacity." We use what we learn to strengthen our relationships and our capacity. Our ability to learn is the compass rose on the map of living. It helps us find direction. In my life, I've been given the fortunate opportunity to travel the world a bit. And when I go to a strange city or a strange country, I like to have at least a map or a guidebook to help me plan my visit. But I don't have to stick to that map. And I've often found marvelous delights off the beaten path. The maps don't define the trip for me, but they help me think through my visit in general terms. In Unitarian Universalism, we do not have a creed. What we offer instead of fixed belief is a kind of roadmap, a list of things you might consider as you make your travel decisions, as you make your ethical and moral decisions about life and the life of your spirit. Excuse me. These are, of course, the 8 principles that we read in the responsive reading. Now, these statements are not a creed. Nowhere are you asked to accept these things as hard and fast beliefs. And these are not ancient worlds from long, dusty times ago, but a statement first adopted 40 years ago and then revised again just in 2021. They are not laws, but are written with a somewhat vague and poetic language. There is, deliberately, lots of room for interpretation, for exploration, for turning it over and thinking about these issues, and for the inclusion of personal experience. What does it mean, for example, to respect the inherent worth and dignity of every person? Does that mean you have to go hug them and invite everybody home for lunch? No, probably not. Does it mean you have to allow people to abuse or exploit you? No, definitely not. Because if you're going to respect worth and dignity, you have to start by respecting your own first, by keeping yourself safe. A person's worth and dignity in their behaviors are not always the same. I have no qualms about condemning behaviors that are hurtful, dangerous, or destructive, but it might be possible to do so without condemning the person. And I think that that's what this principle calls me to do. I believe that I have to try and separate the person from their actions. There may be reasons for bad behavior that I do not comprehend. Everything from illness or social circumstance or just a really, really bad day that are influencing this person's actions. To be my best self, I feel a need to condemn the acts, but to hope that there's a salvageable person behind them. In the same way, the first principle calls me to look beyond the obvious indicators of gender, age, race, nationality, culture, economic class, political outlook. That can be the toughest one for me sometimes. Religious views, or any of those other categorizations, and just look at the person. I'm called to look for the common humanity we share at the core, not the disparities that they wear like so much wardrobe. My point is that this principle is not a belief statement, but a call to thoughtful action. It's a guideline that asks if I have considered all the possibilities before I make up my mind. It's a nudge asking if I'm doing the best I can or if I'm just giving in to easy, dehumanizing judgmentalism. If we look at the other 6 principles, and since we don't have all day, I won't, but we can see a similar spaciousness of wording. The second principle asks us, when we do make judgments, to consider, are they legal? Are they fair? Are they compassionate? And how do we balance those 3 ideals? And so with the rest. They aren't rules, they're thought-provoking ideas. In the end, the statement of principles does not tell you what to believe or how to act. It asks you only to think through the implications of the beliefs that you do hold and to consider the impact on the actions you take. That's not a creed, it's a guideline. It's a map that you can attend to or disregard as you need to. The 8 statements offer a course for your personal reflection. This is the way of Unitarian Universalism. Nothing is fixed. Everything is open to reasoned discussion. Following a creed is hard, but following a non-creedal and ethical religious path might even be harder. For me, it's been a 40-year journey, and I am far from finished. But I believe this path offers the world a different kind of salvation, if you will. There's nothing heavenly about it, for Unitarianism is a religion of this life, this world, a here and now faith. We can't be naive enough to think that we can fix the world in our lifetime, if ever. There's simply too much brokenness. But we are each called to do what little we can to make things better, starting with making ourselves better. And if we do that, perhaps we can find some peace and contentment in the act of living as ethically and morally as we can. Thank you.